Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Phil at the Movies. I'm your host, Phil Walsh, and you were listening to the last episode of the year, the last episode of 2024, and what a year it has been for movies. And speaking of movies, I just got out of the theater myself. It is now 1:34 in the morning here on the East Coast, and I am going to give you my initial thoughts, my first thoughts on one of the most anticipated films I have had this year and one of the most anticipated films to close out this movie season, particularly the holiday season. And it is Robert Eggers' remake, reimagining, updated version of the classic vampire film Nosferatu. I will do a full episode in the new year breaking down this film in greater detail. There's a lot to unpack and there's a lot to marinate and think about with regards to this film because it is unlike any other vampire film I have ever seen. And again, I'm giving you my initial thoughts. It is 1:30 in the morning, so again, some will marinate and things will become clearer. And of course, I always try to avoid the hyperbole, though I am human. It does happen. I have to say, watching this film tonight, experiencing it, and then walking out of the theater afterwards, two things. Number one, this is the vampire film I have been waiting my entire life to see. This is not Dracula. This is not your sparkly vampires from Twilight. No disrespect, of course. We all know I have great respect and I stand Robert Pattinson, but this is unlike any other version out there. And when I say it's a vampire film that I have been waiting my whole life to see, a lot of vampire films today sort of miss the point of these characters. They may be creepy or they may have some scares, but they're sort of missing the essential elements. These stories, these films were gothic tales, and that's an important ingredient to it, in addition to the darkness that is essential to these creatures of the night. But another element, and that's what I mean when I say I've been waiting for a vampire film like this. Not only do you have the gothic elements, not only do you have the darkness, but there is an element of sexiness, if I can put it that way. There's a horniness factor. And you may be thinking, okay, what the hell am I going on about? But so many vampire films today are missing that last ingredient that is truly essential to what makes these stories compelling and engaging. It's that allure of the vampire and his potential victim. And that's right at play in this film. And so when I say it's unlike any vampire film that I have seen in my life, that is what I mean by that point. It's dark, it's gothic, and there is an element of sexuality that is not existent in many modern vampire films. Not to say there haven't been some, but those elements are so prevalent and a part of this film, and why I think it works ultimately so well. And the second point I will make, and again, this is where I may be getting into the hyperbole and going in over my skis a little bit, but I think I witnessed the greatest vampire film I've ever seen. I really do feel that way watching that film, and now it's been about an hour and a half since I've seen it. It's an assault on the senses. It's really an experience that just takes you into this other world, and it doesn't let go. There is a scene at the end of the film. There's a final shot, which I will not go into detail because I do not want to spoil this experience for you, because this movie just opened over the Christmas Day holiday. The final shot of this film is arguably, for me, the shot of the year. It is striking. It is nightmare fuel. It is hauntingly beautiful. It is an immaculate imagery. And it's why a movie like this needs to be seen on the biggest screen imaginable, because you want to be immersed in this world, and you want to be taken on a very dark and gothic journey into the macabre, and ultimately sort of dance with the vampires, if you will. This movie is perfect. I don't have any notes, and again, in a future episode, I will unpack more and really sort of process scene by scene, because there's just so much to look at. But just coming off of the initial thoughts of this film, it's immaculate. It is an absolutely immaculate film. Robert Eggers, who I think is truly a gifted and visionary filmmaker, has created a modern day masterpiece. I'm not trying to be over the top here, guys, but I really do think this film is going to be talked about and celebrated for years to come, because it's unlike any other vampire film that exists in the modern era. And again, you have the image of Bela Lugosi from Dracula, you have Christopher Lee's interpretation from the Hammer films, and what Bill Skarsgård, who, hats off to the man of 1,000 faces in a lot of ways, famous for playing Pennywise the Clown in the 2 It films a few years back. He plays Count Orlok in this film, and it's a terrifying transformation. He becomes a beast of a character, really a walking plague of a vampire. But this is a vampire look and image that is unfamiliar to modern audiences, because we sort of have this perception of either it's the cape and the fangs, or it's a very suave, sophisticated individual, or somebody, a teenage heartthrob. And this is a terrifying creature of the night. This is a grotesque monster that in many ways you can't help but look at, because it's just so unnerving and frightening. And I think that was a way of really reinventing these characters in this story in a way that could appeal to a modern audience, and sort of reintroduce why vampires are supposed to be these frightening, demonic monsters, and not supposed to be these, suave, debonair gentlemen who, sweep women off their feet. You want to be terrified. You want to have them strike fear, and that's what I felt with this film. Because looking at Count Orlok, it's just a nightmare. It's hell on 2 legs, honestly. It's hell personified. And there's a lovely homage to both the original look of Dracula in the book by Bram Stoker, but also the look of the real life inspiration for Dracula, Vlad the Impaler. Again, people, astute viewers will notice the mustache that Count Orlok has. But again, there's so much that I could describe with this film. The cinematography is breathtaking. Every shot in this film looks like it could be a painting or a canvas come to life. And again, it really is the brainchild of Robert Eggers, who did such films as The Northman from a couple years ago, highly underrated film in my opinion. The Lighthouse, which I believe is a modern day horror masterpiece as well. He also did The Witch, which is probably his least popular film, or it's definitely a more difficult film, but this, I think, is easily his most mainstream. It's definitely a crowd pleaser in the sense that it's not a subversive experience. It's not sort of pulling you in direction and then turning the tables. It is straightforward in a lot of ways, and honors the classic mythology, honors this original story that began over 100 years ago, and does it with its unique flourishes and sort of modern day cinematography and techniques that really can make it excel. This is unlike the original version as well as the remake from 1979. And again, it's like comparing apples to oranges or comparing Bela Lugosi to Christopher Lee. But for me, I think this is a superior version of the other 2 takes on Nosferatu. This is haunting, it's frightening, it's unnerving, but there is that sexy quality to it that I think, again, has been missing from a lot of modern vampire films. So it really felt like a return to form of what these stories had been about, because that's very much apparent in the original Dracula novel. And again, a lot of the other versions have sort of gotten away from that source material and just sort of ran with it. But this really did feel like a return to form. And again, I mean, in addition to Skarsgård, you've got Nicholas Hoult, who's in the film, who plays Thomas Hutter. You've got Willem Dafoe, who plays sort of the Van Helsing-like character, if you will, and he's always incredible in any role that he does. But honestly, the real standout in this film is Lily Rose Depp, who plays Ellen Hutter. She is the heart and soul of this film. And I mean, this is one of those cases, because a lot of times people talk about nepotism babies, because she is the daughter of Johnny Depp. This is one of those rare cases, and I will just say it, where the nepotism baby has a lot of talent and is frankly an incredible actress. She may have her father's last name, but she is acting in such a way that it just leaves you gobsmacked by the end of the film. It is a cinematic tour de force, and if there was any justice in the awards races this year, she should be in consideration for a Best Actress nomination, because honestly, I think she gives the performance of the year, because it's not only an emotional one, it is a physically transformational one. She has to undergo a lot of different expressions and expansions of both her presence and her body in a way that is just it's just gobsmacking when you are watching it, and it's incredible. You cannot take your eyes off of her, and sort of pairing her opposite Skarsgård, it really is a cinematic match made in heaven. I was floored by this film. I know I'm going to have more to say in the coming weeks, and I know I did had my top 4 films of the year last week with my buddy Nico Caruso, and again I had sort of teased that Nosferatu may have a spot in that list, and I'm telling you right now, again, I'm gonna let everything sit for a few more days before the end of the year, but I get a feeling this is going to be the number 1 film of the year for me. I was blown away by this movie, just overwhelmed by its awesome power. I mean, that's really the best way I could describe it. It has a power and an affliction. It just grabs you and it does not let go. It's like a vampire bite. It just sinks its teeth into you, and it doesn't let go from the start until the time the lights come up in the theater. But oh god, I could go on, and I will go on at another point in time after I've had some moments to marinate on it. But right now, this is a certified horror masterpiece. This is easily one of the best films made this year. And again, I think for me, it's easily I think it's probably going to be my favorite film of the year, because it checks all the boxes. It's got fantastic performances. It's got an engrossing story. It's visually stunning, and it's a horror film. So again, it's everything is sort of check there for me. But again, it's someone who loves this genre, and particularly with vampire films, which I don't feel we get enough of, or particularly get enough well-made ones. This is unlike anything I have ever seen, and it really does feel and look like the best vampire film of my entire life. I may get some flack for that. I don't care. This is a triumph. This is a horrifying, beautiful, mesmerizing, dazzling display of just artistry and just passion. You can really feel that Robert Eggers wanted to tell this story and bring it to life on the big screen, and it just shines through, from the performances to the music, which is sort of almost like little knives being jabbed into your back and into your eardrums in the best possible way, and just it doesn't let go. It's like a vampire's teeth, biting into you. It does not want to let go. And that's, to me, those are the best kind of movies, because it hooks you right there and you can't stop thinking about it. It's been almost, an hour, 2 hours since I left the theater, and I'm still thinking about this film. That is a mark of a good thing. It's not in the case of, Joker Folie à Deux, where I was like, oh my God, what the hell did I just watch? And like trying to erase the pain and suffering from my memory. This is one of those cases where it is just, it's an experience to be had, and I would encourage you to go see this movie over the holiday weekend, because it really does deserve that big screen treatment, and it is unlike, frankly, any other film, particularly in the horror genre, released this year, and I do think it is one that we will be talking about for years to come. But there we go, my initial thoughts on Nosferatu. Again, may have gone on a little bit too long, but again, forgive me, you'll pardon the hour, but I do hope you all had a wonderful Christmas, and as we now wrap up, this is the last episode of 2024. I want to thank you for being a part of this cinematic journey with me over the last 12 months. What a year it has been for movies. I'm looking forward with great interest and excitement to 2025. A lot of great films on the horizon, and certainly ones that I will be covering and reviewing in the months ahead. But for now, everybody, wishing you a happy and healthy new year and a joyous holiday season. That does it for me today. I will be back next year, where we will do this all over again for the love of movies.